All right, let's bring him in here, man. JD Gagnon, he's the
Let's go.
co-founder of Benqi, our friends at Benqi.
JD.
JD, what up?
What's up, guys? I was sitting back in the green room once Firestorm left, and I'm talking as if you can hear me, but you can't, and I know that.
Here's the thing. I need a better speaker. I need some kind of better sound system. I need to feed what you guys are saying. Like, we still haven't figured that part out, but that's a great point, man. I would love to be able to hear the green room and yell back at you guys. Well, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. Yeah, okay.
That's right.
Yeah, we can hear you, and obviously, like Twitch is also streaming you on this, right?
I
always thought that was funny. Like in the green room, there's other people. You can see the private chat, but you can't communicate with the other people, so you can never actually align the game and like do stuff ahead of the show. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a live broadcast, man. Anything can happen, you know.
I mean, Jimmy dropped the alpha right at the beginning of the call, so now we can just take questions and talk shit.
That's right.
We're not done. No, we're not.
Oh
done.
No, we've got more. We've got more alfalfa.
There it is.
We've got more alfalfa. Don't worry. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Super excited to be here. Of course, we've been friends and partners for going on time. 2 years, 2.5 years. It's been quite a while.
I think you guys were maybe the first sort of ecosystem team that we talked to. We said, let's do a lot of stuff together, and here we are 2 years down. We're still around, man. Props to you guys.
Yeah, dude.
Well, and you guys as well. It's awesome to see one of the first, not the first, but one of the first application specific subnets going live, and it's made a huge difference, at least in the functionality, I think, of Dexalot. It's fantastic. I'm super pumped. And
much appreciated.
Now what we're super excited about is supercharging the ability to launch subnets. And I mean, I don't know if you saw the announcement from Avalanche today, but they've announced an initiative, $50 million for tokenizing RWAs.
I saw that.
Yeah. And I mean, their focus is very, very strategically on, subnet proliferation. That's really the whole value proposition of Avalanche. There's some really cool stuff coming out in the next 3 to 6 months, atomic swaps for AWM and many other things, which is, to those who are not paying attention, incredibly important for composability and interop between subnets, and really opens a whole new dimension of what we can do. So it's exciting. It's exciting times to be around. Anyways, thanks for having me.
No. That's a great intro. We actually haven't hit the news, at least on the show yet, but I have seen the announcement. Yes. Would love to get your take on it, actually. I mean, look, people that continue to watch us, I think, have met you before. You're well known in the ecosystem. So we're going to skip the intro stuff, man. I know you've done it a million times. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, RWAs and why you care about it and why the rest of us should care about it? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that has been, I don't want to use the phrase conflated, but has been kind of combined maybe in error, is the difference between blockchain as a technology and cryptocurrency as an asset or a token or a value transfer mechanism. And I think we, early adopters, innovators, people that have been around for 15 minutes or longer, we generally have had this history of focusing on the currency because that's the asset that we're trying to appreciate if we're holding the asset or if we're a project.
That's the first and only application for a very long time on this technology.
Forever. But what I was excited about in 2014, 15 is now just coming to fruition. And that is the real promise of blockchain technology is what it will do for all of these legacy tech stacks that we currently have that are increasingly inefficient, whether it's finance products or gaming or culture and art or whatever it is. There's a lot of different ways to represent these assets digitally. And it creates a plethora of new opportunities for both the asset issuers and for users. And so RWAs, in my opinion, is the first large-scale representation of what blockchain technology will do for the masses and to really reshape an industry as we know it, finance. 100%. And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say 100% agreed. The funny sort of take I had on this is in 2017, 18 timeframe, there was a massive push into security token offerings. I think you'll remember that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the RWA concept is security token offerings, except not just equity, everything, right? And I don't know why in 2016, 2017, 18, whatever, people focused on just the equity piece, and that was the narrative then. But I think now everybody realizes that any real world asset, as it's called, can actually benefit from this technology. And, you know,
the one thing that we're missing still, in my opinion, is, you know, there's not a meaningful ecosystem yet for RWAs. I have a solution to that problem, but we'll talk about that later.
Let's Let's talk about the solution.
No. That's an alpha leak for another day. Maybe we'll have a different.
All right.
Maybe we'll have a different into the club. Okay. But anyways,
Maz Kanata over here. This is a story for another time.
Yeah. Right.
Announcement of the alpha, guys.
Announcement of the announcement. Pump the price, baby.
Yeah,
Pump the price. Joking aside, obviously, it's something that we've been deeply interested in for quite some time. Is what is the process once regulation comes in all of these different jurisdictions? Like, what is the transition? What does that look like? How do we all come into compliance globally? But up until now, the biggest challenge has been for protocols has been, how do we set up corporate structure? How do we kind of protect ourselves? We do all this offshore nonsense that I don't love.
Actions, a million like things, right?
It's crazy, and it's very expensive, and it's very confusing, and in my opinion, it's crappy, but it's what we've got to work with. The next challenge we're going to have is trying to understand regulatory environments in all of the jurisdictions in which our users can come from. And so right now it's been global access, anybody can use everything, happy days, we're all good, to every jurisdiction is going to have somewhat different rules, and many will require duplicate licenses. As an example, the SEC won't accept that you've got the requisite licenses for MiCA in the EU, obviously. So there's a lot of compliance lift, and that will be interesting. I think it's going to be very challenging for many brands, us included, you guys included. I mean, most often when organizations go multinational like this and take on global legal risk and global regulatory risk and all of this stuff, they do it one step at a time. They pick the next country, they go there, they figure it out, get all the licensing they need to, and then they expand. Then they go to the next one and expand. And they've got resources and teams and experience to be able to do that. Most of us are just technologists. I'm not, but most of us are technologists in many ways. And understanding multinational corporate structuring and international compliance from financial regulators is like kind of insane. So it'll be interesting to see how this all comes about. But anyways, all of this to say, RWAs are, in my opinion, really exciting. If you look at just equities, publicly traded equities and bonds in the US, so publicly traded securities in the US, $111 trillion in assets in the US alone. So obviously all of crypto is a rounding error. Are we going to get 111 trillion in assets digitized on chain in the next 5 years? No. But even if we get 3, 4, 5% of that, which is, I think, incredibly conservative, we're already double or tripling the size of crypto as a whole. And to me, that's very compelling. I also think that what digital products offer to securities, what digitization offers, is a whole ton of new opportunities for those assets, value accrual mechanisms. I think it's really going to be pretty exciting. That was a good monologue.
100% agreed.
We're going to clip that. That's getting clipped. Producer John, put that in the clip pile, please.
Yes. Next time, like, we need to give JD a speed run so that he does the speed run instead of me. I think he would do an amazing job, because he like combined 2 or 3 very critical things in like chunks. It was a great dude. Good storytellers
do a guest speed
are
run?
the most successful people, and you just told a very clear story from beginning to the end for people to get a sense of it, right? Like, one thing
that. Thanks, guys.
You made me think of 2 things, right?
Yeah.
Number one, equities market in the US. Sure, 100-something trillions. And equity market is not the largest traditional financial market. Think about the bond market, right? Think about the FX markets. Like, you know, crypto is not even a rounding error. It's a like overflow error at the end of your float in Python, okay? For the nerds out there, I just did a little, whatever. But That's number one. Like, we have a lot of ways to go. And if you capture a tiny fraction in denominated in basis points of it, the market will multifold in cryptos, right? Absolutely. The second thing that I just thought about when you described it, like, the compliance burden is insane, right? I worked at a bank. They were actually making me and everybody around me memorize and sign off compliance trainings every week. And I like had a folder where they would give you a compliance certificate. I had a folder with like 2,700 or something compliance certificates. You do it every year, you do it continuously, and every course is like, half an hour plus. And at one point, I was able to like recite what I could do if I ever traveled out of the US to go do business at a different jurisdiction, who I could talk to, who I can't talk to, who I would need to have with me in the room to like comply with the rules and blah, blah, blah. And it's incredibly complicated.
We need that speed run though. We need that speed run, Firestorm.
You miss that, you mess that up, bro. Like, the bank gets fined, you get fired, you get sued, and blah and blah and blah and blah. Right? It's incredible.
And you can have your licenses revoked. You can get from the industry. Yeah. Like, it's. I was a compliance officer in TradFi, believe it or not, for about a decade.
You're a bit too happy for a compliance officer, man. What happened? Like,
I'm probably. I drew the shortest straw. I think I had 3 partners, and we had a fairly large firm, and one of us had to be the compliance officer. I was by far the youngest, and so.
Gotcha.
I got tapped.
So you got volunteered, huh? I see.
Voluntold, I think is
voluntold.
Voluntold. But anyways, it was, it's a different beast, and I think the space as a whole is in for some surprises. I've been saying for years, as a contrarian, I think that regulation is coming no matter what. There's no future for the space without regulation. I was shunned by many for saying that a couple of years ago, saying, no, that's never going to happen. I mean, I'm still pretty confident that regulation is going to happen. We're going to not like it. It's inevitable. Whatever happens, no matter what it is, there's going to be an incredible lift for us as projects very early on.
Growth and pain.
It's not going to be fun, but it's going to take the space forward. Go
ahead. And we're not going to like the overhead that it brings, maybe. 100% agreed there. Like, you're going to have to do additional things which you didn't know you had to do before, maybe. But we're really going to like the fact that it opens up the capital sort of pipes that just wasn't there before for us, right? When regulation comes, it brings regulatory arbitrage, which brings in people who are arbitraging between jurisdictions, one of which is under sort of regulated or over-regulated. I don't know which. This happened in equities. Look up Reg NMS, right? If you look at what Reg NMS spurred, it created the HFTs, right? And people talk about HFTs as bad. It was actually created by regulation. The second thing I'm going to say is the capital inflows to the industry is going to like 100x. And when the capital inflows 100x, good technologies, good platforms will actually thrive. So yes, we won't like it, maybe short term. We will love it long term. And I know that there was
medium term, even we'll probably
medium term. Yeah. Like, and I know, and I get this, right? Like, these communities, these upstart communities, start with like a very idealistic sort of concept, decentralization, no central authority, no nothing, blah blah blah. And over time, as the use case develops, and as the use case absorbs more users, more sort of end users, those ideals end up getting, moving towards the fringes, and the general case to capture 95% of all the users, you have to do the regulation. You have to change the game. And I get it. Some people will move on to the next thing, but hey, this is what growing looks like.
I mean, for the average user, the only difference is you'll have to have some version of DID, decentralized or digital identification. And I mean, that sounds crazy, but there's going to be a few vendors that will emerge. I know Swift is coming in to try to work on KYC, AML compliance, and identification. One of our favorite partners, Quadrata, new firm, but incredibly experienced from Wall Street, compliance, KYC. There's some really cool platforms. I mean, everybody's kicking and screaming about this, but we've had KYC for on and off ramping for a number of years in most jurisdictions. I mean, in my opinion, it's a facade that there is the ability to be anonymous in crypto, even including Monero and others, and even with Tornado and other mixers and all of that stuff. A good friend of ours from Chainalysis, Michael, who's one of the founders, their largest clients are the DOJ, Department of Justice in the US, the IRS, the CIA, and the FBI. What does that tell you? That tells you, obviously, that the level of sophistication and forensic tracking and tracing of crypto is actually one of the value add benefits. It's all on chain, it's all transparent, and there's ways to deduce what's actually happening. So I'm excited to see a lot of that. It's just a function of, how do we get there? One final point on this. Oh,
see you, Firestorm.
He was so excited. He's like I gotta go. Maybe I don't even need to talk anymore.
No, but that was. Please continue.
The only other thing I was going to say on that is, I mean, if we look at what's been happening, I think there's a fairly big misnomer of what happened in the last cycle, and everybody's like, "Oh, bull market, everything went bananas," and so on and so forth. I think what was kind of challenging there is there wasn't a lot of new users that came in. Like the actual users did not necessarily grow. Wallet count did. But if anybody's like me, you have hundreds of wallets all over the place and don't use most of them anymore.
Sure.
And there's a lot of the rotator kind of thing. There's assets are just moving from L1 to L1 to L1 to take up, narrative liquidity mining. There he is. He's back. Oh shit, he's gone again. Someone's having some tech.
Disappearing Firestorm.
Yeah, he's kind of like a ninja. Smoke bomb. Dude. Anyways. And so we didn't see a ton of that additional adoption. And I think, I've been asked a few times lately on different podcasts and shows and stuff, where we're going to get the next 100 million billion users from. And the answer is they're not coming until we have regulation, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because if you look at the normal adoption curve, or if you look at the normal distribution of adoption of innovative products, there's always the one tail, which is like your innovators and early adopters, people that will try anything and are okay with the outsized risk. Then when you go up into the largest component of the bell curve, those are all your retail, prosumer, smaller institutions.
Yep.
Like that's where those people live. And then there's like the other tail, which is like people that will never adopt until it's been around for 100 years. And when your grandparents start using crypto day to day, then we've hit that component. But I mean, all of those people have been conditioned and are used to participating in TradFi. And TradFi has always had a lot of rules and a lot of, there's recourse if something goes wrong. There's accountability built in. They're not coming to crypto until they see regulation. So again, I agree with Fire.
Oh, go ahead. No, I was just it just makes sense, man, because it's like, how regular people are. I mean, the majority of people come in and they see, well, there's no regulation. I know if something goes wrong with my bank, the FDIC is going to cover me or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or the federal government when the FDIC is not high enough. Apparently that's the thing. I said, apparently the federal government will just backstop your bank too, because when the FDIC limits are too low, they still just backstop it.
You only own your house until the government says you don't anymore,
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Big shout out to Avalanche intern, by the way. I see you up in here, player. Good to see you.
Oh, shit.
I know. It's a true party if Avalanche intern enters the chat. So he said he saw speed run and he had to come over. So it looks like Firestorm is having some PC issues, but he will be back, guys. I don't know if you noticed. I had to take off my hat a little bit because JD, when you come into the show, this happened last time too. I call it big brain time. You guys, you and Firestorm start talking, and my brain starts to grow. So I need to remove my hat to do one more notch on the snapback to make sure it can still fit my big old head because I have a big head anyway. You know what I mean? So
it's the same idea as like undoing your button on your pants when you're eating a big meal, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like my brain had a huge meal. And I learned so much that it's just like, oh my God, I got this hat's getting too tight again. Also, it's very hot. You know what I mean? So
funny. It's smoking hot here too. It's like 105, I think, today or something. It's nuts.
Dude. It's 90. I think 96 was going to be the high. Oh my God! Speaking of heat, Firestorm's back in the house. I think.
Okay. So here is what happened. I muted myself, and at the unmute, realizing that I'm going to talk about regulation, that I'm going to talk about a proper ecosystem for institutions to be able to play with, StreamYard was like, no.
Whoa.
And StreamYard kept kicking me out. And like, it wasn't anything to do with my computer, but somehow the magic computer restart solved it.
Is the CIA watching this stream right now? Is the CIA watching?
The story that we told, the story that we told was Avalanche intern showed up and you disappeared.
Saying, what's the deal, man?
Smoke bomb.
Or maybe it was the Avalanche intern, but I don't understand because I literally didn't do anything other than just unmuting myself. Like,
we are a Fed.
So hard work.
We are a Fed chain, right? Avalanche is a Fed chain.
Correct.
So,
correct.
But gentlemen, we got it.
It must be the anti-Fed, cohort, because I was arguing for the Fed anyways. But anyways, what did I miss?
Not a whole lot. Talking about the bell curve, just adoption and how regulation is probably needed. I was talking a little bit about the last cycle and how there's a fairly significant misnomer that we really expanded the space. We did by asset value, which is exacerbated by AMMs and the function of how pricing mechanisms in on-chain work relative to limit orders.
I was talking about how much I missed you. I was talking about how much I missed you.
Yeah,
I was hoping you were coming back.
I appreciate that, and I
he
missed
shed a
you
tear
guys. Yeah, I missed you guys throughout the outage. It was crazy. But one more thing that I just thought about as I was trying to frantically restart my computer. Retalk, again, a project that was very early in Avalanche. They are basically trying to, create a RWA equivalent token that is for rental income, right, at a high level. And there are some of these applications that you come across throughout your career in crypto. And the fact that it's gaining steam and the fact that sort of crypto becoming a little bit more prevalent in everybody's lives is very awesome. Again, like if you're just starting to look at the space, it looks chaotic. But once you've been in it for a little while, the noise starts to just go around you and you see some of the big changes as like trends, that you're observing. So anyways, super excited about real world assets.
Lots of excitement around that. And go ahead. We can.
No, I was just gonna say. So s.AVAX, right, is the first liquid staking asset that we're looking to list on our platform. As we mentioned earlier in the call, the asset actually is now in post-only mode. I actually, funny enough, from some key community members, I've received questions about, hey, how does s.AVAX work? What are, what is the technology underneath? Do you mind just giving us just a little bit of the overview? Because obviously you guys were the first to launch this. It's been around a while. I forget how many AVAX is in there now. It's like 8 million plus, right? Congratulations, needless to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's at today, but I can double check here. Just give me one second.
Yeah, if you could just give a little bit about how that works, because I've also come across layer ones who are like focusing on the liquid staking stuff, etc. And we just would love to start with an overview for that, because I don't think we covered this before.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, liquid staking, first of all, is different in every ecosystem. There's different structures and different security, programs and so on to make sure that it's safe. But we actually started working on liquid staking at the same time as working on Benqi. So it was 100% from scratch. It's bespoke. We spent a lot of time working with Avalabs because, in our opinion, and in the opinion of most people that understand how staking and proof of stake works, probably, if not the largest, one of the largest single risk vectors for an entire ecosystem is its liquid staking asset. So if the liquid staking asset was compromised in any way, or if it depegs, which on Avalanche isn't a huge risk, but it's possible, or if liquidity dried up, or all of these things, it could cause catastrophic impacts to Avalanche as a whole. So we didn't take that responsibility lightly, and still don't, of course. Avalanche has a unique structure in that currently you have to go from C to X to P. And so C chain to X chain to P chain. So we built an infrastructure. We've on purpose not detailed the tech stack that we use and some of the other things that we're using from a security OPSEC perspective. So if I'm kind of brushing over some stuff, know that that's intentional, not
of course. No, that's okay.
So effectively, we have a bot that we have an automated structure that whenever somebody deposits into the C chain, there's a process where it goes from C chain to X chain to P chain and delegates to a validator. So there's an automation process in there. I'm not going to talk too deeply about how we secure that, but what I can tell you is that there's nothing even remotely close security-wise to what we've done with s.AVAX. Essentially, you would have to, at gunpoint, kidnap many of us in different countries simultaneously. And yeah,
I had to give it to him.
I mean, it's and we've really focused on. We initially didn't run any of the validators. We're just delegating. We wanted to contribute to the greater overall security of the ecosystem. We didn't want to create single points of failure. We didn't want to be the infrastructure provider for all the nodes. We wanted people to have a choice of where they were going to host their nodes, how they were, if they wanted to increase their delegations, they could do so. If they didn't care, they could abstain. Anyways, it was structurally, we wanted to create as much flexibility as possible. And I think there's a few other groups now that have launched liquid staking assets. I don't know specifics on their architecture. I suspect, knowing both groups, which we won't talk too deeply about today, but knowing both groups, I suspect both structures are very good and very well thought out. We've always said that liquid staking should not only ever have one provider, but it is somewhat of a monopolistic structure in some ways. You get to a certain critical mass, a certain network effect, a certain amount of validators, and it makes more sense incrementally for people to use one protocol over another, as we're seeing with Lido versus everybody else on Ethereum. It's a lot different on Ethereum, so it's not apples and apples, of course. But yeah, so we'll have to see. But I think competition breeds innovation always, 100%. And so I love it. I love to see great teams building.
And 100%. We had another provider on the show. Really great teams. Everybody's actually approaching it from a very different perspective and lots of innovation. And I know, so just to add just a few very basic things. Again, I just want to do this for the community. I know these are basics for you, but once you stake or delegate, you are improving the validation on that network, right? You're effectively contributing to the security of the network, right?
Right.
Prior to s.AVAX existing, you had to do it in such a way that you would buy your AVAX, you would put it in a validator. Hopefully it was yours, but at some point, I know that there were people out there that were just picking validators on their own and then delegating, right? And once you did that, for that duration that you selected, the liquidity was locked, right? Let's say you're like a top dog, you spent a bunch of money, and you staked. Yes, you're going to earn some capital on it, but throughout that period, your liquidity is gone. If you need access to that liquidity, hey, you're out of luck because the protocol protects that. Now, s.AVAX changed that, and of course, other staked assets changed that, where you get a depository receipt, right? You put your AVAX into it, you get a sort of one-to-one asset that is continuously accruing that staking reward, but you could take it to, again, Benqi and use that as collateral to do other things that you want. Like, I don't know, you're going to go buy a Lambo and you can put your AVAX bag on Benqi and Benqi will give you a loan as long as you manage your portfolio properly, right?
That's financial advice. The Avalanche intern
buy a
Lambo.
So who did? Avalanche intern did?
Avalanche intern. I heard he gets paid enough, so we'll see.
Makes sense.
I'm picking up mine on Tuesday, so next Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess we got. We got to. I'm reading his comments in the chat. We got to get our applications in for our Lambos. joking, when we were raising money for Benqi, a few VCs would ask, what's your use of proceeds? And there were 7 of us. And so we said a Lambo in every color. That's what we're using, the fundraising.
Makes sense. That's the crypto way, right? I mean, that's
Rainbow Lambos. Anyways, yeah, no, I agree with you, Firestorm, entirely. That was actually one of the biggest motivations for both Ethereum liquid staking and, of course, for Avalanche is capital efficiency. So
absolutely,
you used to have to make a decision between adding to the security of the ecosystem from fundraising to fundraising.
There you go.
Boy.
That's
nice. Boy, Avalanche intern. So that was one of the big, challenges before, is that you might be long AVAX long term, and you might want to contribute to the overall decentralization and security of the ecosystem.
I don't know what's going on. Like, my camera's being turned off randomly.
CIA, so man. We gave that financial advice. The CIA popped in, man, with the SEC.
Someone's messing with you. But yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought now. Damn it.
I'm sorry about that. We were talking about like increasing capital efficiency.
Yeah. Sorry. So you had to make a decision. If you were long AVAX, you could either take that AVAX and go lend it and do other things with it, which is what most people did, while still remaining long AVAX, if you believe in the protocol long term. But then you couldn't contribute to decentralization and security. It was like they were mutually exclusive. And so that's where liquid staking came from, really, is we wanted people to be able to contribute to security and decentralization. Obviously, the security of the ecosystem is as strong as its delegated and staked assets. Especially from a financial perspective. So that's really important as we're bringing billions and eventually trillions of dollars worth of RWAs into an ecosystem. We're going to need a hell of a lot more economic security. All of this to say, that was the big motivation, was trying to allow people to have their cake and eat it. So you could be long AVAX, you could contribute to the security and decentralization of the ecosystem, but you also have access to your capital and your principal should you need it.
And like, I'm going to say, this is kind of the bag holder perspective, right? Bag holder, degen, or somebody who wants to participate in the ecosystem perspective. But I kind of, again, and this is the liquid staking piece that comes into play, the most important value to me from a sort of person looking at it from a project or an institution perspective is the fact that s.AVAX in turn spurred the next product on your, in your pipeline, and that allows us to do. No, JD, you're not gonna. That allows us to launch subnets, essentially, right? Hopefully.
I'm just messing with my back.
I know you're messing with me. I'm like, this dude would not miss this cue. No way. He's just playing.
Actually, I've got a really funny thing. I just got to figure out how to get it. Whoops.
Is this the?
We love funny things.
Is this the theme for what's coming?
No, just because I got to figure it out here. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, we love it. Oh, we got some. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the CIA. There we go. All right. Enough of that nonsense. Yeah. So that sparked liquid staking sparked VEC first. And so VEC, really the point there was people were asking, hey, since it's we have a bunch of criteria that are used to identify validators that are qualified for Benqi liquid staking, as you can imagine, uptime, performance standards, et cetera. And the split percentage also matters. If you have a large split percentage, then you're not included in the validator set. But anyways, people were asking, hey, like, is there a way to get my validator prioritized? And so we did a bunch of modeling and math to figure out, does it actually make sense? Like, is there a world, even with token value where it's at right now, or we released this a long time ago, but where the token value was at the time, did it make sense? Was there actually an upside? Was it net positive to lock up Chi to get VEC, and then with your VEC vote for your validator? And the answer was yes. If you wanted to fill your validator, it was net positive EV for you to use VEC. Now, there's a whole bunch of particulars with respect to that. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of AVAX, you have to have a certain amount of delegation capacity available, et cetera, et cetera. If you have a really, really small node, if it's just 2,000 AVAX, which isn't small for most people, but relative to the rest of the validators, it's less positive EV than it would be if you had a larger validator. So that's what VEG is all about. There's some other components of VEG that will be coming out in the future. We're not talking a ton about it yet, but definitely very interesting. We've seen a lot of people participate. There's a lot of people voting for their validators month over month, which has been, I think, validation that it's something that's useful for sure.
And I kind of want to touch on Ignite as well, right? Like I know that's sort of the last step, at least from what I can see, because you haven't given me alpha even, but tell us how that works and what's coming after is what I care about.
What's coming after? Yeah, well, Ignite is really, like, we've been thinking about this for a long time, and one of my partners, Hansen, you guys all know him really well, but he's really the brains behind.
Dude, before you go on, how do we get him on the show, man? He's been DKing it. I want him to come to the show with you, that we got to make that happen somehow.
I know. I get the nod for all public appearances. Period. I don't. It's been like that since day one. So
he like constantly rejects us as JD.
Always. Yeah. They always
listen. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I want him too. So.
Yeah, he's an incredibly smart dude, and I think the problem that we were trying to solve for is when we were talking to potential app chains or potential projects launching on Avalanche as subnets. One of the challenges was, even to spin up a test net, they have to have enough validators, right? You have to have, well, to have a meaningful network, you have to have enough validators. And for companies that are just dipping their toe in, if you're a TradFi institution and you're saying, hey, I want to look at developing, I want to see if we can, beta test, MVP something, the overhead of just validators, let's say, for argument's sake, you need 10 plus validators to create some sort of meaningful economic security and performance, let's say. That's 20,000 AVAX, which today is
more than 200K, 300K, roughly, right?
Yeah, 300,000 roughly.
And at the height of the price, when a single AVAX was at $140, just calculate that number. Right?
It was a lot. It was 3 million. So it was very, very expensive. And the other challenge with that is, if you're putting up your own AVAX, or if the treasury or the foundation is putting up, of the protocol is putting up the AVAX, you're also taking price risk. If the price goes down, you're stuck. You're stuck with those validators. You need the validators. Now, in my opinion, that design is still orders of magnitude better than the way that the parachain auctions worked and all of this other crap. But anyways, nothing against Polkadot. The auctions was an interesting experiment, I think. All of this to say, our goal here has been to try to reduce the friction and the financial obligation for people to test and launch on Avalanche, and to get to meaningful scalability and meaningful security. And so we said, how do you do that? How can we make it so that validators, people can spin up validators without having to have as much AVAX? And so we came up with two ideas. And I say we loosely. Hansen is really, again, the architect of this. I want to give credit where it's due. But there's two ways. There's one way where we move it from being CapEx to OpEx. So a capital expenditure in terms of buying an asset, getting a bunch of maybe hardware to run your validators, or maybe using cloud. That's a CapEx expense. In this case, it's an OpEx expense in many ways. So the first way that we can do it is we have simply a monthly fee. So you can pay per validator, per week. It's a weekly fee, 4 AVAX per week per validator. So if you need 10 validators that are meaningfully filled, then you would pay 40 AVAX a week. And so that just becomes an OpEx. It's just the cost of doing business. You could spin up more validators very simply, very quickly if you need to, if your ecosystem is going bananas and you need more validators. The other thing is, at some point, we can permission a lot of that also. So we could say, you spin up a validator, you're also for your subnet, but that validator might also be eligible to validate another subnet or something. Like there's other things that we can do that doesn't exist currently.
I'm wondering, like, because I obviously looked at a lot of the alternatives and whatnot. And one interesting thing that I've come across in my prior job was the fact that, and maybe you as a prior compliance officer will have a better idea at this, some companies just cannot hold the asset. Like if you are a most heavily regulated entity and you want to experiment in this, you're already stuck not being able to own it. Therefore, you can't experiment in it. So the OpEx model, in my opinion, is genius, because now, did I just pay a service provider to take care of the regulatory gray stuff from my perspective for me? I just do my tech build out. It's awesome. I think it's a smart, like a genius level idea. And I think that should really help proliferate subnets together, with the rest of the stuff that's available.
It's kind of like what cloud did, what cloud computing did and cloud storage did for web processes once upon a time. So you didn't need to buy bare metal. You didn't need rack space. You didn't need a deep understanding of server establishment and maintenance. And again, the CapEx of that activity. You could just use cloud. Now, at a certain point, cloud becomes less efficient than bare metal. Like we do at Rome Blockchain, we do all of our stuff in bare metal. We have very little cloud infrastructure because it's tenfold more expensive now that we have critical mass of servers all over the world. But that was a big CapEx. And so, it was a decision we made based on performance at Rome Blockchain. Anyways, this will do something very similar, so that the friction to onboarding a subnet is as low as possible. It really is as simple as identifying where your node is, where your server is. So you can use any one of our vendors, and there's many of them. You can check them out on Ignite. Once it's launched, we'll have our vendor partners. But the intention there is to be somewhat agnostic with the node partners. We've got a few that we know that are going to be listed. There's a few that are great that we don't know that aren't going to be listed. Doesn't mean that they're not good. But anyways, so you determine where your node is going to live, whether you set it up in your basement or whether you use cloud or quick nodes or whatever, or all nodes or whatever it is that you end up using. There's a lot of options. You establish that, you go on to Ignite, you simply pay the fee, and boom, validator has AVAX in it, and away you go. The idea there is to be as quick and simple as possible. Yeah,
a degen's dream, man.
And it's we talked about Ignite last time you were here. You guys were just getting into that, and you guys kind of laid it out. So you guys can go on our YouTube and see that interview and get all the juice.
100%.
Yeah. Ignite. So we also, I just want to touch on this quickly. The goal, there's another path. So there's the one where it's pure OpEx, that what we talked about, 4 AVAX per week per validator. Sure. And then there's the other option where we'll lend you the balance of what you need to get to the 2,000. And so the first iteration is going to be 500 AVAX is your minimum. So you'll have to put in 500 AVAX. You'll also have to hold 150 AVAX worth of chi at whatever the market price is, or you have to stake essentially as slashable collateral. So your chi is your slashable collateral. And then we fill your node. And then if you're really smart, you'd buy VE chi, or you would stake additional chi to get VE chi to then fill up your validator. But there's a few ways that becomes valuable. Go ahead.
One thing I'm just going to say, I just want to make sure everybody gets it. 500 owned plus 150 worth chi to get 2,000 AVAX.
Correct.
Ignore everything else. Basic math. You want to run a validator? Basically, at that moment, 650 AVAX worth is all you need to buy versus 2,000 for actually running it yourself, right?
And we have plans to get that down significantly from 500 AVAX.
Ooh, spicy, because Avalabs have heard from the community early days, why is this 2,000? Make it lower, and look at it. A community member is actually making it. So that's all I'm saying.
The intern dropping bombs here. Attaboy.
There you go.
Still in the chat today.
But yeah, one of the cool things, like Ignite isn't just for subnet operators. There's a lot of cases, and I'm not going to go into them in detail because there's some arbitrage and some alpha opportunity if people just go and think it through. But it is profitable to spin up a validator through Ignite, even if you don't have a subnet. And we can talk later about maybe some other time about why that's important once it's live.
We need to do a separate session for degen alpha, and everybody's gonna have to sign a waiver saying all the alpha here,
it's not financial.
I'm agreeing that it's not financial advice. We're gonna do that. And we should call the podcast or the show Financial Advice Show or something like that. And JD's gonna bring the lights, Jimmy's gonna bring the music, and I'm just gonna be the dumb guy asking.
Oh man, we've got these podcast setups like crazy. The only thing is my camera. Like this thing's actually really cool.
Dude, the on-air signs, the webcams don't pick them up because I got one too. Look, and it comes in all weird.
The
GoPro picks it up okay.
It's a 4K camera too. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I got a high quality, this is pricey camera. You know what I mean? But the setup looks great. Where did you? My question's a little less involved. Where's that shelving unit from? Because that's a really nice shelf.
It's actually the whole wall.
Oh damn. Okay, so you got the setup. Okay, yeah, that's an installation.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
I love it.
Truth be told, it came with the house. So I didn't actually do shit. I just showed up and set it up.
It's the capital efficient way of doing it, probably. So
that's right.
We're all about capital efficiency out here.
I have another office actually in my house that I have this chair that lays back all the way, and it brings your computer screens and your keyboard is on a magnet. It's really cool. But the background looks at the water out of my house. So it's really cool, but there's a lot of glare and stuff, so it's not good for these types of things.
Sure.
Man, intern posted an actual picture of himself watching the stream. Really great picture, intern. You look healthy. You look rested. I think it's really, if you want a face reveal of the Avalanche intern, just check out the Dexalot Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. I don't know. But JD, this has been awesome, man. We always like when you come in but I got to ask you one thing, man. I really love the chain. The chain's a great look, but why is there only one? What's up with multi-chain, man? You got to get the 2 chains in there.
I actually have 2. One's black though, so you can't see it on black. So that we do a podcast every day at 12:30 p.m. Eastern called Go Fud Yourself. And we've done it for like 120 episodes. We're going to have you guys on it one of these days, actually.
We'd love to.
And we just every day, 30 minutes, we just roll through the most trafficked news of the previous 24 hours, which currently is a lot of regulatory stuff. And we have different themes. It's pretty cool. Anyways, all of that to say, we have a production team specifically for that. And one of the graphics designers guys, we have this video that we play about 30 seconds into the stream. And in the video, it's like illustrations of Kiara and myself. And I just look jacked with all these tattoos and this giant gold chain smoking a cigar.
That's awesome.
And so I thought I'd lean into it. So I went and bought the
Sounds great,
gold
man.
chain.
Sounds like fun.
It works.
Here we are.
Totally works. I love it, man. Yeah, that's and guys, definitely check out JD on his Go Fud Yourself show. Listen, let me tell you, I used to be on the radio every day. That was my job before the pandemic made everything weird. And so doing a show every day, doing a live broadcast every day that's a lot, man. That's a real dedication. So make sure you go check them out because that's the real stuff, man.
Hands down, my favorite thing to do is the podcast. Like I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. We lean on AI and NLP quite a bit.
Sure.
Again, we have producers that like I get a brief every day of talking points, major points, summaries of all the articles. Like it's pretty easy for me, but it's a lot of fun. Like I love it. Anyways, check it out.
Dude, everybody go check it out. Go check it out. Go Fud Yourself. Make sure you're following.
We're everywhere.
JD on whatever we're calling
Twitch, Twitter, Spotify, soon to be Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Boom. We're all over the place. We do Twitter Spaces too, and they rug us all the time, and it's a hot freaking mess, but it's a lot of fun. Hey, just quickly, there is some pretty interesting DeFi integrations coming for s.AVAX in the next little bit, so keep your eye out for that one. Ignite is soon.
Soon, as in exact date and time, maybe.
I don't have an exact date and time.
We have air horns. We can do lights also.
It's imminent. Imminent. We only have a few things left, and a few of our team members have been on vacation for a while. Our tech team members. Soon TM, not a boy. Oh,
stream starting soon.
Yeah. And so it'll be quick, relatively quick. Once everybody's back, we want the whole contingent available of devs. And we have a fairly large dev team, but we have a few in particular that are focused on Ignite. And so we're close. And we had to make some adjustments. We had to, audits, and then we added to it. We added this 4 AVAX per week per validator thing.
What is that saying? No plan ever survives first contact or something.
No.
I think it's a military saying. So you make a lot of plans, but as soon as you put it to action, things change. So I get it. Awesome, man. So, that's great to hear, though.
So very excited. We've got some really interesting infrastructure partners that we have yet to announce for Ignite, and some really cool validator companies. I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but we've got a pretty good list of partner validator establishment entities and so on. It's exciting.
Awesome, LFG, and best of luck with the launch. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you all a ton for your time. I can't believe we've gone an hour.
It's always one of those, man. That's how you know it's big brain time, because the time goes so fast when you and Firestorm start going off. It feels like it's only been 5 minutes and it's been a whole hour. You know what I mean? It's like that's the sign of a good conversation, man. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the case? You just start talking and get going. Like, I guess exactly, you guys kind of jokingly said I'm a storyteller, and I think that's pretty accurate.
It is true, but I mean, like, it's important because people need to understand the story behind these innovations, these people, these products. Why, when, how, and where to, right? And it's very important to be able to communicate that. That's why I love having you on the show, because that's
why we do this show.
You bring people from the beginning all the way to the end. Does that make sense? It's not something easy, and you don't come across that all the time. So.
There's not a whole lot of things that are better than Into the CLOB, I'll have to tell you. Especially
appreciate that.
The DJ set. I've got my song ready for you.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because I was going to ask you for your request. I'm glad you didn't forget, but we can do two. See, listen, this is what happened last week. The Pulsar boys were here, and they're like a tornado. They're like a whirlwind. So they just left before I could even get a song request from them. You know what I mean? Try to get them back. They would, they were already off doing hot fixes and stuff. So I'll take 2 songs from you if you got them. I'll do a full JD mix today, man.
All right. In the private chat, I sent you the first one. I just got to find the other one.
All right. Let's see what we got.
Got to find the other one.
Oh, okay. Producer John, can you get me access to these? Oh, he already has the song. Because our producer is going to get me these if I don't have them. So we got one already. Tonight Belongs to You by Bassett. Is that how you say that? Okay, cool. Do you have another one? Are you pulling it up? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
It's just going to take a sec.
Yeah, take your time, man. Take your time.
Trying to find it.
And guys, make sure you're following JD the _ Diamond Rock on Twitter X. .edu.org, whatever it is now. Yeah. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't your profile picture the animation you're talking about earlier? Yeah. I thought that looked familiar.
Yeah. Awesome. There's another song, but I'm looking for the remix, and I don't know why it's not on here.
The reason, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, the reason JD's looking for music right now is because we do a little DJing at the front and back of the show. And I always get a song request from our guests. And today we're getting 2 because last week's guest just left the chat before I could even get a song request. They had to go do a hot fix, do a patch on the game. But right now I got 1 request. And make sure you're following Benqi Finance on twitter.x, .net. There it is.
There we go. Mix those together.
So you want the Roses Man Back remix?
I just like Bags of Screaming Goats.
Dude, I know that song. That was a big song, like right at the tail end of
2019.
Yeah, the radio station that I used to be on. We played that a ton. And honestly, man, here's a funny story about St. John. If you guys are familiar with St. John, he's a good rapper. Really interesting artist. I haven't been following him lately, but I know for a fact, because I got this information from his manager, I was the first radio DJ in the United States to play his song McDonald's Rich on the air. So
nice. It's your boy.
It's your boy.
Very aligned with crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying
it's just the other way around. We
exactly.
once were rich, and now we work at McDonald's. That's how it goes, isn't that? Is that how it goes? Where's what was that comment from the beginning? Super Meat Boy. That's it. That was a Super Meat Boy comment right there.
There it is. Man, this was great. All right, I got your request, JD from Benqi, the co-founder. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to us, man. Make sure you go follow him on the twitter.x.elon, and we will have you back. We'd love to jump on your.
Great having you on the show, man. Always.
I love it, guys. Super appreciate it. We'll come back anytime.
We'll do it, man. We'll do it up
next time.
Thank you for being here, man. All right, take care. I got your request coming up. Cheers, JD.
Peace.